Welcome to this spontaneous hangout about why probably your startup vision sucks and what we're right now doing. It's actually we're in the process of creating a shared vision for the first time. Actually, my name is Kai Christen. I founded a good year ago. I founded a convention called the Lifestyle Design Convention, and now it's like growing, 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 and we have more and more team members coming on board. This is Josh Lemon, one of the co-founders, together with Charlie, that we have on board as well. And yeah, we're right now actually creating the vision. So in this moment, our team is downstairs and thinking hard about what our vision is, while we have a glass of wine and have this conversation together with you. So cheers. I don't.
You ran out of wine.
Then
We need some more.
There you go. Yeah, and for us that was, or for me, I can only speak for me. It was a fascinating process so far, because when you create something on your own, it's like a baby, right? It's like it is the convention last year was me, like 100%. Everything that happened represented to a huge part what my vision of the world, or my vision of a great convention is. And that's nice, and that's at a certain point you realize you simply can't do, if you want to change the world, you can't do it on your own. And it's also not fun. So what happened to me is the whole process of setting up the last year's convention was actually a pretty lonely process. So I was sitting a lot. I have three screens, right? And I was sitting behind those screens, like organizing and contacting speakers and everything in my sweatpants, alone at home. And I was like, yeah, I'm creating something that is really awesome, and at the same time, it doesn't feel like the process of creation was like, like it's a lot of fear, and you're alone with this fear. Will there be enough people for you? Maybe will there be enough people buying your product? For me, as well, will there be enough attendees that I have, and am I good enough, and all that stuff came up for me. And somewhere along the journey, Josh tagged along and Charlie tagged along. I was like, oh, that's more fun. And still, like, I was the founder, right? So they were more like giving input, but still I was the creator and I had everything to say. The event came, it was fucking amazing. It was really, really good. We had this amazing mood the whole time. But then you come to a point where you realize, okay, now you need to go a step further. Because our so far vision, we'll see what happens with it right now, was to really go global at some point, or at least that was my idea. And I cannot go global on my own. So more and more people got attracted by our idea, and yeah, now we're at the point where we're a team of five people right now. And yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit about how it was for you, like how your situation was when you imagine, like, there's this guy who has like this vision, and you just like you find it nice, but like, how did it feel for you?
Yeah. It's awesome when you connect with someone who has a vision that you really align with. Like, you just find like somebody is working on something, the vision, you can feel it. They don't tell you the vision. Like, you didn't tell me what your vision was, but I could feel it. And when we started talking about how to make it better, and how we could give the most value during the convention to attendees, like what we were talking about was essentially the same thing. We had different experiences, backgrounds, and perspectives on how to achieve those things, but they were really so aligned. Like, it was kind of like magic, And I think that's why we were able to create something really cool at the convention. And for me, I think I've always worked with teams of people. I always had this strong belief that you create something awesome with a group. And I know some entrepreneurs who do cool shit on their own, and I have a huge respect for that. But I know that's not me. I don't do that. I'm not someone who creates shit on their own. And so for me, it's always a team effort. And actually, that's part of like my purpose, is to create something large, something global. And as you said, the only way to do that is with a team. So you need to very early on start thinking about how do you structure an organization. and not just a team. That's the first step. Not just an individual. That's the very first step, but a whole organization.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're not there yet. We're not creating an organization yet. Right now we're a team.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe next year we'll have 15 people, and then we'll start being an organization, and that'll be super interesting. And the work that we're doing now in terms of vision setting and purpose creation is super critical to expanding. Like when we get more people on board.
Yeah, we need to have something that we can like communicate clearly to the people, right? And we didn't have that yet. And I've seen people in a similar industry, and they always talk about it's something that you cannot explain. And I'm like, well, you can explain it.
You have to explain.
Yeah, you have to explain it. Like you have to make it tangible for people so they can get on board easier. With us, it was like people kind of got attracted to the idea, but like, what is it actually? And so where the status where I'm at right now is creating a world where authenticity is the new status quo. Yeah. So that's my vision now, where one being connects to the other being without bullshit. Like, so we help people to come to a stage in their self-development, to a level in their self-development where they really live their true self, where they're not bullshitting, where they're completely honest, completely vulnerable, and just don't use up so much of their energy to manage a picture of themselves or like to manage the expectations of others, but much rather come from inside out and actually create in the world. So use that energy that was clocked up in like these management things, use that energy to create. So that's where we are right now. And now we need to make that even more tangible, and also, which is a very important part, have the views of the team in there as well. Yeah. So that was kind of, for me, it was like quite an ego thing, right? You're like, but I have the vision, I have this thing already in my head, and I already formulated it. But now what we're actually doing, what I realized, Josh and I have quite a strong presence, and the purpose of a vision is that everybody buys into the vision, right?
Yeah. And not just buys into, but
creates. Yeah. And that's actually a chance. If you are still a small team, like we are, it's very easy because you can actually have everybody around the table and let them create what they believe is the vision that they see for the organization.
Yeah. And it's something that we were talking last night about kind of authentic organization. This is sort of like a passion project of mine. I'm going to do some webinars on that as well, actually. And there's an amazing book called Reinventing Organization that talks about authentic organizations. None of those words, but it's really about that same paradigm of authenticity, which is a paradigm of understanding the world, a perspective, a worldview. And organizations, there are now some organizations that actually share that worldview from an organizational level. And for me, that's super exciting, because if we can create a whole organization that is authentic and not just individuals that are authentic, then we can raise that level of consciousness to become more authentic with far greater impact. Because people primarily change through imitation and through role modeling. Like if you're a role model for a new paradigm, people will follow you into that paradigm because they want to be more like you. And so one of the practices when you look at organizations that are living this already, one of the practices that they have is what they call evolutionary purpose. And they say purpose in an organization, it's deep, it's very profound, it's something almost sacred in the organization, and it's something that changes as the organization grows and evolves. So today we're exploring what is the purpose of this team as it stands right now, and that may change in the future, but right now we're coming together as a slightly bigger team, organizing the Lifestyle Design Convention 2016 and planning for what happens next and what happens after that. And we need to get super clear about what our purpose is right now.
Yeah, I like the idea of what the purpose is, or like the vision, or whatever you want to call it right now, instead of what the vision is in general, because it takes a lot of pressure away of making that thing perfect. so people actually open up and just share more without any reservations what feels right to them in the moment. And I think that's a really important thing. You can still refine it. Actually, I wrote down as one of my values is the value of imperfection. On purpose, the value of imperfection, so the value of being human. And I think that's something we really embrace by like not trying to make perfect vision that is right now, that is like valid for the next 10 years, but much rather something that is valid for us now, and keeping the possibility open, having that space to create something new.
Yeah. And when you're in this paradigm of like control, I need to control the world, I need to manage people's expectations, you also, in your organizations, you want to control things. You want to write down the purpose, set it in stone, and then never touch it again. This is our purpose. It must never change. Otherwise, how can it be a true, authentic purpose if it changes? But that's a misperception of what
it's not. It's not how nature works, right?
No, nature doesn't have a fixed goal that it sticks to forever, right? That makes no sense. So, and this is actually the perfect metaphor. I love the nature metaphor. It's in authentic organizations. It's a core metaphor for how the organization works. It's a living organism. It's not a machine, which is the dominant paradigm of how we see organizations today, is that they're machines, and that human beings are cogs in the machines that you can replace if they're not working properly according to the definition of what the machine needs. And in an organism, every cell is an important aspect of the organism, and you add new cells organically.
So yeah, let's get down to the practical shit, right? So we've talked a little bit about the mindsetting, how we approach this exercise. Let's get to the learnings that we actually had over, like, it's just one day so far into the Life Design Movement retreat, and we found several things. One thing that I realized really at the beginning is that like everybody is different, right? So we have people who have very strong opinions about stuff, and maybe also people who have very strong opinions and they don't say them, right? They're not like sharing them as loudly as, for example, I do, and also Josh is.
I don't have such strong opinions, but I share whatever opinions I have.
So we needed to find a way of like including everybody, and I think that's learning number one, is be extremely aware, especially at the beginning, but all through your probably like your evolution of the organization, but especially at the beginning is like, how do people work? Like there are people who are very open and share their inputs, and if you have people that are not as open and are not as open to share everything because they're maybe insecure or otherwise, or maybe just are more like not as expressive as we are, find ways how they can still formulate their very, very important input. So what we have done is we thought about whenever there was an important, or sometimes when there was actually an important decision, we didn't take the decision, the two of us, because we're the loudest ones. I would say I'm definitely the loudest one, but then shortly after that there is Josh. But we included the important decisions. We actually like outsourced them to the people who we thought actually are a little bit. It takes them more. It is a little bit more difficult for them to take decisions, or they rather give the decision power to others, and we let them make the decisions. For example, how we structure the teams of interviewing each other. We did an interview process of where we asked each other different impactful is that word? Yeah, powerful questions about what is important to you. What is the stuff that really matters to you? So we did, especially for us, it was important to have like feminine and masculine energy in that, certainly, and then also to have people around that you maybe not like wouldn't be your like complete first choice. Different reasons, you're like too afraid to talk to them, or maybe have a little bit more respect, or maybe you haven't connected as well, and like put them in such a place. But the end decision of how those teams look like were not with us, because we are used to taking decisions, but much rather with people we thought like it would be really interesting to have them input, but they're not as loud as we are, right? So we created those, in our case, two teams And then we started doing an interview process of asking impactful questions to each other, and like just taking notes on stuff that we felt like really hit, right? Where we thought, oh my God, this guy is really now in connection with his truth. He's really talking about something passionately. We wrote that down. Everything that was like more of like blah, 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 it's important, rationalization and stuff, like we tried to keep that kind of out. So we had these really interesting conversations that actually led much deeper. In our case, I don't know how it was in your group, where we actually went into the deepest fears of people, of not being enough, not being loved, and at the same time, like, what are the needs out of that, or what is really important to you? And so we went that we accepted the fact that there will be some, that it won't be so focused, but much rather an open conversation. And that
like an exploration.
Yeah, it was more exploration than like focused process.
Yeah.
And through that, we actually generated a result of like a few key points. We just called it very general stuff that is important to us. That like we put the name and then like the 5 key takeaways, or the 5 key points that were important. In my case, that was authenticity. What else? There was, like, for me at the moment, it's really important, like the whole feminine aspect of femininity, to bring that more into the organization, but also into my life. We had honesty there. We had, yeah, so values like giving, but also receiving. These were values that were, in my case, important. So I'm going to share just what was important to me. And so everybody that has done those things. The same, I guess, in your group, right?
Yeah, it was great. We had really deep conversations and found, so much similarity when we were a pair, and when I was being interviewed, it took me some time to think about it. And then when I was interviewing a colleague, she just knew all the answers because she had been listening to me and been like, and mentally like, oh yeah, that's me, and that's me, and that's me. And seeing just this massive, I mean, we're so similar as human beings, and me and Sina especially, like, have a lot of similarities in the green way of kind of approaching the world. And it was, I especially like the question that we asked, which was, what is your hell no moment? Which made us think about all those experiences where you think like no, I don't tolerate this. I will not. This doesn't meet my expectations of myself.
Can we go maybe a little bit into the questions we actually had? So
yeah.
What was a hell no moment? Was some very important thing, like, where did you say, fuck no, I'm not going to do this? Where did you draw the line? So what? Yeah. So to put like the other emphasis, whatever, on like what is absolute, what can't you accept? Never. I will not go further. That's like a hell no. Then we had what was the second question? What makes you feel very alive or really alive? Then we had a question of, what else?
What do you love about the people you respect the most?
Yeah, what do you love about the people you respect the most? And then also, what would you love to do, but you're very scared doing, right? That was the other one. So we had questions like that, and we created those questions together in like a short brainstorming. But I'm sure, like, just Google some impactful questions about vision. I'm sure you can come up with a shitload very quickly.
But yeah, I mean, for us, it was like, I think it was valuable for us to create those questions. We generated, I think, 11 questions together, and we asked ourselves, the question we asked ourselves, what is our core purpose individually as human beings? What is our core purpose as a human being individually? What questions will get us closest to that? And we came up with 11 questions, and then we talked about, which questions would be more powerful, and really just hone in on those most impactful questions, and there's those 4. And that was a cool part of the process. Those 4 questions were great questions, and afterwards we were able to take these pages of notes basically and summarize them for ourselves and pick out like what do I learn about myself from this? Like, what is the most important keywords?
Yeah, so that was learning number one, is to have like to source outsource decisions, to have like clear the questions, and have like two teams doing it, not like everybody on their own or everybody in like a group. I thought that was very good.
And I think this, if we go to the premise of this talk, why startup visions suck, it's exactly this. It's they don't include the perspectives of individuals. It's a very theoretical exercise of, what is the product of this organization creating in the world? And that's not how you start. You must start with the purpose of the individual members of your team.
It's not focused, like mostly it's focused on the what. So what do you do and how do you do things, instead of why do you do the things, right? So like, what are your drivers? Why are you here in this world? What motivates you? I think these are much more important questions than how is your value proposition or whatever. That's all coming after it. But like really identifying, especially when you're a startup, especially when you're a small team, what are your deepest core drivers? What is really important to you? And go from a place of there, then creating that vision, instead of, okay, that's our product, that's the way we want to create stuff. And instead of actually asking yourself first, like, why is this important, right? Why am I here? And then from there, because then you maybe realize that product is just a part of our vision. Actually, apart from doing conventions, in our case, we want to do workshops. Apart from workshops, we want to also do that and that and that and that and that and that and that. And so like that, you grow your portfolio more and more, instead of going to like a product-based approach. So I think that's a very, very important thing to do as well.
And we have a guest.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Who is the guest? He's muted. All right. Well, we'll see. Yeah. So that another thing I really quickly want to add, I think we're gonna get to the end of this whole thing, is if you are a strong personality as a founder, if it is your baby, if you maybe also have a co-founder that has a rather strong thing. Something that struck me today was like, we were in the formulation of the organizational vision. And one thing I realized is, if we're going to be a part of the primary process of formulating that, we're going to actually overrule everybody else, because we are quote unquote too loud. We are too, we already have too much of a concrete idea. So what we did, and that's why we're doing actually this talk right now, we withdrew ourselves. So we went a step back and we said, okay.
And it was scary. Like, Kai said, all right, me and Josh are going to leave. And I thought to myself, shit, I really wanted to create this vision, but it would have been my vision, right? And not the team's vision.
Yeah.
And the ability to let go like that is, I think, like the hallmark of an authentic organization. It's, can you as a leader truly let go and let people manage themselves, because people are fundamentally capable of it.
We're still gonna have our say in the whole thing, but like, we wanted to have that, like, the base to be formulated not by us, because we were in the topic for a very long time. That means already we now are narrowed ourselves down to we already are, in German it's called the Fachidioten, right? Like, there's too much of experts in that field. We've seen not many conventions. They maybe haven't, so they have an outside perspective, so a broader perspective, and maybe also new ideas how they see our vision. So we both believed after some hesitation, it's actually great to leave the room and let our team do the whole foundational work, where we maybe add some input, but it's generally from them. Also, what happens if they create it themselves? I imagine that they will be more motivated to actually follow through, because it's a part of them, instead of, I like Kai's vision, or I like Josh's vision, and we're following that. So that it's, I like my vision. That's different, right?
It's a different thing to be aligned to something and to own something.
Yeah.
Like, when we started working together first, and I was like super aligned, that didn't mean I didn't feel any sense of ownership at the beginning, but it was over time that you said, hey Josh, like, you're the co-founder now, so what you say is important, and then I had to really think about what is my, my own purpose within the organization, and that gives me ownership. And so, it's so crucial. Like we talk about, this is a big thing, self-management. A lot of people don't understand it because they think to themselves, how can people manage themselves? Because they don't feel a sense of ownership. Well, exactly. Like if people don't feel a sense of ownership, they can't manage themselves in the organization. But wouldn't it be much more amazing if every single person in the organization felt that they were an owner?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why it's not happening, I believe, is because of ego.
Yeah.
It's because you are, as a founder, as a leader, as a co-founder, you are in the way of your own organization most of the time.
Yeah.
You are in the way of the growth.
Yeah.
I experienced that being away for some time and actually not answering every question that people had. Amazing stuff got created while I was away.
How embarrassing.
Yeah, how embarrassing. Yeah, it's amazing. It's like actually not being in the way.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the main tasks as a leader is to not fuck it up, to not destroy, not reduce, not destroy the motivation of your team. Because the motivation is not something you create, it's already there. Like people joined you for a reason. If it's something like we do, hopefully you're not for the money. In our case, certainly not. They did it for the purpose, and like your only job is not to destroy that initial motivation. And how do you do that? You create ownership, you create freedom of expression, and really face your own fear of like not being the big boss in everything anymore, and like actually letting the idea grow by itself and seeing the idea actually as something that is bigger. That's the reason why it's so important. If you create something in this world, it needs to be bigger than yourself. Otherwise, you cannot let go of it. It's impossible, and like it won't be as fun as something that you create with a bigger purpose.
And why would you want to be part of something that's smaller than you?
Yeah.
You're playing it small, right? Like, imagine if you can. I mean, imagine, like, think about all the people that you respect. They're all people who are part of something much, much greater than themselves, something that transcends an individual person. And that's our goal, right? To transcend the possibilities of every single human being and do something truly extraordinary.
Yeah, I think that's a very good ending towards that. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you watch it on YouTube, we had one viewer, very good so far, because we did everything spontaneously. We already also realized a few other things. So yeah, enjoy your time. I hope we could help you a little bit with this, and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao.